Chapter 4. There's a strange thing that happens when people brush up against something too vast for their minds to grasp. Most of them, if they're lucky, forget. They bury the memory, wrap it in layers of rationalization, label it unimportant, and store it away somewhere dusty in the subconscious. But there are a rare few, like Charlie, who finally experience digging its claws into them, pulling them back time and again to the edge of reason. Strangely enough, after his second encounter with the shard, Charlie managed something remarkable. He went home, and he fell asleep. Not the restless tossing and turning kind of sleep, mind you, but actual honest-to-goodness, out-like-a-light slumber. It's as if scratching that impossible itch left him for once able to breathe. Oh, the strange images were still there, swirling through his mind like whispers on the edge of a dream, but now he could let them come and go, bobbing along in his thoughts without dragging him under. Of course, I'd love to take credit for this newfound calm, one of my finest manipulations, surely, but honestly, I think the shard just gave him a taste of something he didn't know he was starving for. And once you've had a taste, well, you don't fret about hunger quite so much. Not until it comes roaring back. Back at work again, Charlie is walking through the laboratory halls, mop in hand, trying very hard to convince himself that nothing's changed. But we both know that's a lie. The shimmer of impossible angles, the pull of alien geometry. He can't erase those two encounters with the impossible object from his mind. No, as much as he might wish to retreat into his old, orderly world, he's been marked, touched by the unknown, and there's no undoing it. He mops methodically, eyes trained on the floor, as if focusing on the mundane will scrub away the memory. He has nearly convinced himself that this is true when he feels it. A faint familiar pulse, like an electric hum, prickling the back of his mind. He stops, grip tightening on the mop handle, a chill crawling up his spine. He knows this feeling. It's the same sensation he had when he first looked into the shard. The same dizzying lure that pulls him forward, even as his body begs him to turn back. Since his second encounter with the shard, the lines between my world and Charlie's have started to dissolve, blending in subtle, unnerving ways. The nudges I once planted in the recesses of his mind, disguised as passing thoughts, have grown sharper, more distinct. Now when I reach out, he doesn't just feel a vague impulse. He hears my words resonating in his mind like an echo from somewhere outside himself. He may not yet understand who or what I am, but he knows one thing for certain. He's not alone in his thoughts anymore. Again with the mop, Charlie. My voice curls around his thoughts, amused. Still clinging to that comfortable little illusion of order? Charlie stiffens, looking around, but of course he sees nothing. Just the dim, sterile hallway, stretching on in either direction. He shakes his head, forcing himself to keep walking, but my whisper is curling at the edges of his consciousness, seeping in just beyond his control. Who's there? He mutters under his breath, though he knows no one will answer. No one human, at least. Oh, just a friend, I say. The words sliding smoothly into his mind, a feather-like touch that he can almost, but not quite, ignore. Though friend might be a bit generous, call me an interested party. He doesn't respond. Not directly, anyway. Instead, he sets his jaw and moves faster, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. He's still holding on, trying to convince himself he's in control, that he can just walk away from whatever this is. But we both know better. What is it you're running from? I ask, more curious than mocking this time. It's only your own shadow, you know. His breath quickens, and he glances around, eyes darting to the shadow that trails him along the wall, as if expecting it to jump out, to betray him. This, this isn't real, he whispers, as if saying it aloud will somehow make it true. Oh, come now. You've seen it, Charlie. You felt it. That pulse. That flicker at the edge of your vision. It's all real. More real than the life you cling to like a child clutching a broken toy. My words seep into his thoughts, and for a moment I sense a crack in his resolve. This time, when he closes his eyes, the memory of the shard floods his mind, vivid and sharp. The strange shifting shapes, the geometric impossibility of it all, the magnetic pull that felt like a promise whispered to him alone. It all rushes back as if the shard itself is still there, embedded somewhere in his mind. He takes a shuddering breath, gripping the mop handle so tightly his knuckles turn white. Why me? He mutters to the empty hallway, a trace of defiance in his voice now, laced with something else, a spark of curiosity. What's happening? Why are you, whatever you are, doing this to me? Ah, at last a question. It's an irresistible thing to the human mind, isn't it? Show it something it can't comprehend, and instead of running, it reaches out, desperate to understand. Because, Charlie, you are unusual. You may be trapped in routine clinging to familiarity, but deep down I think you want something more. You've been waiting for something to shake you loose, haven't you? He frowns, his brow furrowing. I never asked for this. Didn't you, though? I asked gently, though there's an edge to my voice. You may not have said it, but you wanted change. You wanted something that would remind you there's more to life than mop handles and night shifts. And now, well, here it is. He stands there, letting the words settle over him like a heavy mist. Part of him wants to resist, to turn away and bury himself in the comfort of his routines. But there's another part, a small, stubborn flame that feels drawn to the idea. It feels true even if he doesn't want it to. It's only the beginning, I whisper, the words brushing against his thoughts, teasing, coaxing. All you have to do is look a little closer. He flinches, pressing his hands against his ears as if that will silence me. He's growing more sensitive, aware of the shift that's taking place. My voice is no longer the indistinct murmur he could dismiss as his own thoughts. It's separate, something other, an entity that hovers just outside his consciousness, waiting and watching. What are you? He asks, his voice barely a whisper, the question slipping out before he can stop it. Just an observer, I reply, a smile in my voice. A wanderer who enjoys a good story. And Charlie, I think you're going to be one of the greats. He lets out a low, frustrated growl, his hands dropping to his sides. I'm not some hero in a story. I'm just a janitor. Oh, Charlie, I sigh, almost pitying. You may think you're just a janitor, but you're so much more than that. You're the one who saw the shard, the one who felt its pull and didn't run. Or well, you ran at first, but you came back. I didn't make that happen, you did. He swallows, the words sinking in, lodging themselves in his mind like barbed hooks, and then just as quickly he shakes his head, as if he can dislodge them all by sheer will. But I can feel his curiosity bubbling beneath the surface, a flame that refuses to be extinguished. Why don't you just leave me alone? He mutters, his voice unsteady, his gaze fixed on the floor. Oh, I could, I say with a hint of amusement, but where's the fun in that? Besides, you and I both know that you don't really want me to. He clenches his jaw, refusing to respond, but his silence speaks louder than words. The doubt is there, gnawing at him, whispering that maybe, just maybe, this voice isn't the enemy he thought it was. That maybe, in some strange, twisted way, I'm offering him the one thing he's been searching for his entire life. He straightens, loosening his grip on the mop handle, and takes a step forward, his gaze thoughtful, as though he's already beginning to consider the possibility of going back to that place where reality shifts and bends, where his curiosity will be answered and tested. "You won't leave me alone, will you?" he mutters, not entirely to himself. "No, I don't think I will," I reply, my voice barely a whisper, a promise. And with that, he lets go of the mop, his hand lingering for a moment as if it's the last anchor holding him to the life he knows. The air around him is thick with the scent of bleach and disinfectant, the familiar hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence. Yet there's a shift in the atmosphere, a weight pressing down on him, pulling him back toward that forbidden chamber, that fragment of the unknown. The realization hits him slowly, like the drip of a leaky faucet. "You want me to go back?" he says aloud, stopping mid-step. His voice carries a mix of accusation and disbelief. Ah, there it is, the light bulb moment. Charlie rubs his hands over his face, as if trying to scrub the thought away. "What happens if I go back?" he asks, his voice quieter now. There's a tremor in it, something caught between fear and anticipation. Oh, the things I could tell him, but where's the fun in that? "If you go back," I say, my tone light, almost playful, "you might find answers, or you might find questions so big they may make your little mind spin right off its axis. Hard to say, really." He doesn't look convinced. "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting," I reply with a grin, and he can't see but can probably feel. After all, what's the point of discovery if you know what's coming? Charlie stands there for a long moment, staring at nothing, the gears in his head turning. He doesn't say anything else, but I know the choice has already been made. It always is. He stands there, in the dim light of the hallway, the weight of the shard's call pressing on him, pulling him forward. The strange voice, the whispers at the edge of his mind. It should terrify him, he knows that. And yet, a part of him doesn't want it to stop. Maybe he spent too long waiting for something to pull him out of the shadows. Maybe, just maybe, he wants to see where this path leads. With a slow exhale, he gives a single, almost imperceptible nod to the empty air, a silent acceptance of the presence he can't quite understand. "All right," he whispers to himself, almost as if in reply. "Let's see where this goes then."